Hey guys, my name's Hunter. I'm going to be hosting this sweet little panel of all of my buddies and friends that play instruments a lot better than I could ever dream about doing that. So I'm just going to introduce these guys. This man's name is Joe Volk. I have him in my phone as Jill Volk, and honestly, still to this day, whenever I look at him and say his name not to him, I still am like Joe Volk. Guys, give it up for Joe. He's a drummer extraordinaire. Next is David Whitworth. That is your name. Also drummer. Nicholas Stailey, playing keys, crushing it. Jonathan Lee on electric. Adam Kiser on bass. David Hislop on electric. And last but not least, our late bird, Matthew Ogden. Well, guys, the whole point of this panel is to kind of equip you guys from their perspective of how many of you guys know that leading is not just the leader, right? Or else you wouldn't be in this room, you wouldn't be in this school. Is there's so much weight carried on a set by the drummers, by the everybody playing an instrument. I mean, I said everybody playing an instrument, my man. But so the goal of this panel is to give you guys an opportunity to pull on the enormous strength that these guys actually are and the deep well that they actually are spiritually with the Lord and also on their craft. So I'm going to start us off with a question personally, and then while I do that, I want you guys to start thinking of questions and maybe line up next to my beautiful friend Jazz right here. Does that sound good? Yes, it does. All right, guys, you finally get you all to myself and ask all these deep, dark questions. I'm going to start with the dark ones. Okay, so if you could communicate, if everything was off the table, if you could communicate anything to a worship leader to make a set go better, how do I say this? What is the number one thing you would give a worship leader for advice to make you guys look like geniuses?
Check. Whoa. Earroll. I don't feel like... Hello? Well, I would say have a game plan. I sound crazy, don't I?
Yeah, that actually insane, bro.
Check. This one's... Oh, wow.
Now you got that deep,
Oh, yeah.
deep notes, bro.
Yeah. Honestly, just to answer that, have a game plan, know what you want to do, and not just come to a rehearsal be like, I don't know, what do you guys think? Be like, you're the worship leader. I mean, so having a game plan, know what you want to do, is a great starting point.
I've heard it said that failing to prepare is... wait, how does it go? Sorry. I haven't.
We're nailing this.
Everyone was up till like 2 a.m. last night.
Yes.
If you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Yeah. That's how I've heard it said.
Write that down.
Aggressive first answer over here.
So when you guys tour together, how do you avoid, going at each other and getting really annoyed with each other? Do you have to set boundaries or what?
Yeah, I think the more we travel together, the more we realize what everyone needs personally. So for me, I'm an extrovert, but I recharge alone. So I think just knowing, at least for me, just knowing myself when I'm going to be on edge or whatever, just go by myself and recharge. Boys?
I think that's great. I think it's knowing what you need. It's like doing anything with people. You have to take care of yourself first, and then you'll be a better person and more able to have conversations. And we kind of it's like, this is it, so we have to make it work. So, things get bumpy, but it's mostly great. But just stick it out and we all love each other a lot at the end of the day.
I have never, I've had so much fun on all of our trips. I've never had, beef with any of these guys. That would be really good TV or something if there was beef. I feel like that would make things way more exciting. We all hang out. So our tour days are we roll into whatever city, and then we get out of bed, maybe some of us, or our bunks, at 9 or 10 a.m. And then we go try to find coffee and do something in the city, just get out and be with each other, hang out. And so we're always having those little connects, and it's awesome. It's pretty lighthearted. It's nothing too heavy. I would fight all of you, though.
Yeah, I think if you're having any beef, one of the best ways to get over that is just get some snacks and eat together.
Snack town.
We snack a lot. Some chips and
Eat your
salsa, and then
feelings.
you're good. Yeah.
Jeez. I got a question for you guys. When it comes to practice, are you guys do you find yourself that you're still in a season now after all of these years of playing this instrument, maybe like 10 years for some of you guys, yeah? Maybe more. Jeez. Do you find yourself practicing as much as you did in the early seasons, or do you find yourself now just kind of keeping the old gears still oiled up?
I find that it's different. Like my practice is different, but I try to play as often as I do, and it might look like a different thing because I'm doing more than just this or more than just bass, but I still play a lot, and it all transfers to each other. It's just, and part of it's leisure. I just love playing, and I love challenging myself, and it's fun. So it's not like I'm like kicking myself to like go do all these practice stuff. Like I am, but it's just different, I would say. But my play time has not changed because I just love playing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would say to tag on to that, I think it changes as you grow up and your life gets busy with work, and then if you get married, start a family. So your time, there's more of a demand on your time, especially as you get busy with working as a musician as well. So finding the time and making intentional set-aside time to practice, you have to be more intentional about. Because a lot of our free time is like either we're like working, recording, writing parts, or learning songs. So to set aside time that you actually intentionally grow your craft, that's not necessarily rehearsing for something, is just harder to come by time for that. So you got to be more intentional. So I just encourage you, if you're younger and you have more free time, really set aside time, schedule, be intentional to grow in your instrument that way, because you won't necessarily have that time later. And I know a lot of us are probably riding on those years that we were just by ourselves and had lots of time.
It's really good.
Like you just said, maybe somebody talk about what your practice life looked like back in those days, is in practical terms. Like, how much were you guys practicing?
Well,
how
for
much?
me, in high school, yeah, we moved around a little bit. So there was a season where we kind of lived in the middle of nowhere, and I was homeschooled, so we'd get done with school in like 2 hours, 3 hours, and then it was just music all day. It was a lot of learning songs for me, so just lots of different styles, theory, but mainly having fun with music, so not just all the boring stuff. You have to have fun, otherwise you'll just want to quit. So follow just your instincts and desires with what you want to learn, where you want to grow. That was my journey.
Yeah, I think we have a question right here with this young lady right here.
Hey guys. So my question for you is, when you guys are on tour playing the same songs every night, just over and over again, how do you stay connected to those songs and not just go through the motions of playing them?
I think each room is different, and each group of people obviously are going through something different and are connecting to different songs each night. So I think just feeling the room and feeding off of their energy on certain songs where, like, the night before, maybe that song wasn't as powerful, or am I saying that right? Powerful? Yeah. Yeah, just like with the different crowds, it keeps it fresh.
Yeah, I agree with that a lot. I think just like trying to stay really present and just focused on the one night instead of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I have to play this song for 12 more nights in a row, or like this is the 10th night I've played this same song. Like, but just like, okay, this is what we're doing right now. These are the people that are here. They've never heard this song live maybe before, or encountered the Lord or, encounter Bethel music in this way. So that keeps it really fresh. But it is like you have to be intentional with it. And we're also really fortunate to have leaders in a band that we do get to flow and we do get to kind of change things up, at least in small ways every night. If not, there's sometimes that songs go completely different or there's a brand new moment that happens. So that is one of the main things that keep things really fun and paying attention and hungry for what can happen.
One of the things that I think is super cool about our tour night specifically is that we always have ministry time and actually intentionally create space for the Lord to show up, and that kind of gets you out of just playing the same set list every time, because there's about 20 minutes every single night that you have no idea what's actually going to happen, and then every single night when we pray for miracles and we pray for the impossible and we just hey, if the Lord did a miracle in your body, just raise your hand, and you see how many people's lives are changed every single night. It's pretty there's never a moment like that that's the same ever in history, and you kind of feel that every night. It's pretty special. Pretty.
It's every set, it's a new sacrifice of praise. So I think keeping that mindset every single set, even though we play here so much, if you have that mindset, just eases you a little bit. All right, here we go. This is a fresh set. We're playing the same songs, but the Lord's going to do something different tonight in this room with the same songs, same lyrics. He's much bigger than just a song that we sing over and over again.
Whoa.
Go for it, my man.
Okay, so I play drums at a church where they have just started to develop a youth worship team. And they're sending kids to me, wanting me to mentor them basically on how to play worship drums. And most of them are classically trained how to read sheet music. I am not. I am all self-taught. And so it's what would be the best strategy to approach, and this could go for any musician, I guess, to be able to teach them how to flow in worship and not have sheet music necessarily, or how to make that balance.
Well, it sounds like a good problem to have. It's I'd rather have drummers that can read sheet music and be crazy talented. I mean, I don't know. I would have them listen to worship albums or listen to something without sheet music and play along with it. And just challenge them, say, hey, try this out without sheet music, or let's come to rehearsal. Day one, you get sheet music for everything but one song, and then kind of challenge them that way. That's all I got. But I feel really skilled musicians, if you give them challenges, they'll accept them. It's yeah, all right, I got you. I can do this. I think. Maybe
I
not.
think that's great. I think it's easy to feel being able to play to a chart or sheet music is a skill, and playing by ear is kind of well, I just figured it out. I don't really have that much skill. But being able to hear a song and figure it out and flow is actually a skill that you have that you can offer to those, those kids or the newer people coming up. So I think if you just have that mindset of this is actually something that's worth teaching and worth learning, how to play by ear and play from your heart, those kind of things, then it will help you a lot besides I don't know, just play. Just figure it out and play. But hey, this is something you can actually learn the same way that you learn to read all these charts and stuff.
Hey, I have a question for the keys and guitar players. How do you guys communicate so you're not clashing? Do you have pretty set roles in a mix, or is it by song, or how does that work?
A lot of songs, if we're fortunate, we have time to pre-pro them new songs so we can write parts that work together. So we're, kind of working around each other in that way. A lot of times on a Sunday, if a song is just brought, we'll just go by the written parts. And if there's not any, we just kind of listen song by song, part by part, and see what sonic space needs to be filled. And one of us will kind of jump in that area.
Yeah, in spontaneous moments, I'll usually just start playing something. One of these guys will usually start playing something too. And if it's something that, I feel could be repeatable, then I'll just start latching on and playing the same thing that they're playing, or playing a harmony, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think especially with the melodic-based instruments, when your melody is a king, and in this kind of scenario, especially in spontaneous moments, you want to make sure that the way you are hearing yourself in your monitor mixes, that you can also hear. So Nick and David is panned in a way that it's very, very clear what they're playing, to make sure that I'm not clashing. And then sometimes just even feeling in the moment, it's a little spiritual, but even feeling in the moment like, oh, this moment needs keys, or I feel like the Lord is on Nick right now in his melody, and making way. And if Nick starts playing something, either reinforcing it or just kind of working together as a team. But melody is king in your inner mixes if you are a melodic-based instrument.
I'm going to ask a question real quick. We get this one a lot in our panels that we've done, but you guys have built a lot of history together and have played for years. How do people who have churches that might have quite a few new members coming, how would you as a band encourage them, or what advice would you give them for bringing in a new member into a team that's already been established?
That's a great question. I mean, start some practical jokes on them. Well, yeah, a lot of hazing type stuff. We do deal with this a lot. We even with new worship leaders that come on tour or something like that. I'll speak into that. We want to set them up with success because they don't have the history that we have together. They're new guys coming in, so we give them that slow pitch. Be like, hey, here's a song we know is going to work. We got your back. Like really setting them up for success in whatever area or field they're in. Like if it's drumming or guitars, kind of putting in them with a really strong team or musicians that can really make them shine and feel comfortable. You put them out on an island, they'll probably do bad and be scared. But try to set them up for success in the best way you can. Like if we have new guys on tour, we're like, hey, you can lead No Longer Slaves tonight. And they do it and they feel like amazing, you know?
That's really good. Also, I mean, just on a practical level, like communication is king. Before sets and like during the week, letting them know exactly what you want. As far as like a musician or whatever, maybe get coffee with them, set expectations of, creating parts or liberty, or if you want them to stick straight to the record, stuff like that.
Hi, how are you guys?
Good.
You just said communication is king, and I want to ask a little bit more about that. I'm the worship leader, but I don't play drums or keys. And then also I have sound techs who are not really musicians. And so can you speak a little bit to how you communicate with people who maybe don't have as much expertise with you, both to make things sound better and to get the things you need?
Yeah, I think the challenge is you have to learn how to speak multiple languages and being aware of, as a musician, how to communicate stuff like theory-wise or something, and being aware of like, oh, they don't understand that, so I have to find another way to like get them to get what I'm trying to ask them, or sound like engineering terms or worship leading terms and stuff. So I would just think about that a lot, being aware of what they might know and how you could get points across and stuff.
I think super practically is also finding reference. So if there's something you don't necessarily know how to communicate, find what feels good and be like, and find something that you can find common ground on, and you know that this feels good. So songs are great references. Mixes are great references. I think the more references you can give rather than trying to communicate if you don't necessarily are on the same page language-wise, too.
That's really good. Let's get a little bit deeper, guys. How about that?
And
that
dark.
sounds whoa. No darkness. No darkness. I got a question here. How do you guys play songs about victory or healing when not seeing God come through in those areas in your own life? Ooh, mic drop. Let's go.
Jeez.
Listen, this is from our own team, man. It was a great question. I wanted to ask you guys. Thanks, front row. I appreciate you, bro. Guys, not all at once. Yeah, repeat the question. Essentially, how do you guys play these songs that are about victory and healing over every single night, and maybe potentially there's an area in your life that you're not seeing breakthrough in? How do you keep stepping on that stage and playing those songs over and over and over again?
I mean, I think our whole belief system is faith, right? So whether, like, I love the song "Do It Again" because it's like it really does remind you, I've seen you move, You move the mountains, and I believe I'll see you do it again. That is not the right lyric, but it's something like that.
That's pretty close, man.
Yeah. So it's like whenever I am in the middle of something and playing a worship song that maybe I'm still believing for, it almost means more to me. And I can almost give more to that song because I'm like, man, I need to see this happen for me in my life.
Come on, Joe.
I'm in those seasons when we're playing songs and I'm reading the lyrics, I'm like, well, it's not happening for me. Also, I remind myself of the times that he has moved in my life, and I know that remind myself of his faithfulness.
That's good.
And I've seen him move in my life in certain areas, so I know he's faithful to do it in other areas. And so, yeah, it's the whole journey of faith. And it would be such a bummer to be up there and just be so disconnected playing and be like, I don't believe that at all.
Yeah.
Whatever, you know. So I think it's it takes energy, it takes effort to be conscious of it and to be like and to strive and to be aware of your faith that he is faithful, and I believe this. If I don't believe, I mean, if we don't, we're crazy if God isn't, you know what I mean? It's like he's either real and he's going to do it or he's not. So I'm choosing to believe he is in every area. So
Yes, and I think you can pull from your community so much to whether it's testimonies like this person had breakthrough with promises fulfilled or a victory or healing, and like drawing strength from that. And while being known by my community, like if my community knows that I have this lack or I'm wanting to see this breakthrough and I haven't seen it, it's just I want to feel known in that. And so I'm playing this song or I'm going after this thing, and there's something that gives me strength knowing that my friends like know that I'm not seeing breakthrough, but yeah,
that they're believing with you.
They're believing with me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's important to let people in on your journey. I mean, all of us have gone through really tough seasons in our life, and where we haven't seen breakthrough, but our closest friends are like contending for us and they're believing for us, and so that in itself gives us faith and hope. You know, so.
See, these guys are deep wells, man. I told you. All right, we got a live question. What resources could you give your teams to be better prepared for a new song? Like tracks, sheet music, demos. How do we do it here?
We get a voice, like acoustic guitar voice memo.
How do you wish that we did it here?
The sound checks is like, hey, come up with something and make it awesome.
How do you wish that we did it here?
Well, multitracks.com is a website that gives you tracks, it gives you chord charts, it gives you arrangement, it gives you everything. And if you give this to all I don't know if you probably already know this, but everyone will have the same arrangement, same track, same everything. The more information you give your guys, the better, honestly. So multitracks will have the drum parts, bass parts, guitar parts, and everyone's going to play the same thing if you say, hey, play this. I mean, if every one of our worship leaders gave us that, I mean, that would be a dream.
Yeah, I'd sleep a lot more if we got those every yeah, it's the same thing, like figuring out, like even asking you guys, like, hey, what helps you learn a song? And then it comes back to that being prepared thing of like, okay, I'm going to get this not the night before, but at least a couple days before, and I'm going to make sure you know the website to go to and you have a login if that's what you need, or you have the actual exact version, just so that everyone's on the same page. If you need to find some chord charts, I'll help you do that. But all your musicians will be kind of at a different skill level as far as what they need, so kind of being aware of it. And then I would say just get all of the information, the set list, all those kinds of things out as soon as you can. It's just so that they, like, yesterday, well, I can't remember what day it was. Brandon and Paul were in here, and Brandon was talking about trying to eliminate as many excuses for people to not learn something as possible. So just, like, as many ways as you can do that, the better, yeah.
And if the worship leader knows, like, the exact arrangement they want to do for a song, if they know they want to repeat a chorus here or whatever, and they can communicate that beforehand, that's also helpful, especially if you're doing tracks, just to be able to get that set up. So then during sound check, it just runs a lot smoother, and you don't have to worry about changing that on the spot.
That's good. How many of us in this room right now are worship leaders? Most of you guys? Cool. Do most of you
What?
guys play an instrument? Yeah, a lot of you. How many of you guys don't? There's still a bunch in here. I'm interested. How would you tell a worship leader that doesn't play an instrument how to better communicate with you guys on stage or off stage in set prep or anything like that?
I just like pick your point guy on the set. It's probably going to be a keyboard or acoustic player, maybe electric guitar, and make a lot of eye contact with him. Communicate beforehand of like, hey, in these down moments, maybe you can like kind of cover me because I might go somewhere, and just make sure you stay in so it's not everything silent. And I'm trying to just make a moment happen all by myself, like a cappella, and hope for the best. So I'd say communication is just a big deal. And we have tons of leaders that don't play, but I think you can actually communicate a lot better because your hands are freed up. So, hand signals are awesome. You can give, lots of just up and down and come in and, you guys can, end it all the way, those kinds of things. And then at the end of a song, maybe just picking your guy that's going to help carry the moment. And as long as he's aware and you're communicating really well, it's not too complicated. It is different, though.
Hand signals. Usually it transitions. If you're not running tracks or if you're a new worship leader that doesn't play an instrument, any kind of transition, like, verse to chorus, just give the signals, the little worship gang signs. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. Worship leaders, you have feeling, right? You know what you want to hear. You don't have the language, but you're just like, it needs to be bigger here. And majority of the time, musicians can translate that. We can decipher all that. Like, okay, we'll build here, or and they can communicate that. So, but over communication, no matter how dumb it is or how silly you feel, it's great for band members to hear that. Even if you're just struggle busting through it all, it's like, I don't know, symbol, like we can kind of decipher through that, and it's really helpful actually.
That's what I sound like. I'm like symbol.
Hunter will turn around and be like, ding, 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 ding.
I think also going along with what David said, consistency is also super key. And so I think something special about this group of guys here is that we actually the more consistent you are as a worship leader, the band will start to learn you. And so they'll start to understand things and start to read your body language and things that you may not have to have. Maybe the first times that you're leading with that instrument, you have to lock eyes with someone and be like, chorus, straight in their face. But maybe after a few weeks, if you stay consistent and you know your arrangements and you communicate how you feel and you want dynamics to go, like David said, within a few weeks your band will start to learn you and start to understand your tendencies and what you thrive off of. So consistency is a big thing as well.
That's really good, bro.
I'll also add real quick, knowing just basic music theory is important for you guys who don't play as well. We all rely on the number system when playing, and if you're just leading and you don't have an instrument, you can always just throw up numbers for the band to follow. And if you know that, if you know the number system, you'll be able to communicate more clearly what you want the song to feel like, depending on which chords you want to go to. So I think learning that would be very helpful for you guys.
I learned one time that there is such thing as over-communication as a worship leader to my band. One time a band member told me, they were like, hey, Hunter, so how often you're giving me things to do? It's essentially like me walking up to you and be like, play the G chord, play the G chord, play the G chord. So that's real too. Go for it, my man.
Hi guys, I'm Gabriel from Brazil, and I have a question, actually 2 questions. I've seen you guys using 3 at least MacBooks on stage, right? And I want to know who is the guy who run the backtracks and what the other MacBooks do. And the spontaneous moments, you guys keep the click on?
Yeah, so we'll kind of variate who runs tracks. It's either drums or keys usually. And we'll just decide before the set who's going to be the point person for that during the tracks. And then in spontaneous moments, it depends who's leading, but we'll sometimes leave the click in just so we can, all be latched in together and go back into the song if we want to, or that sort of thing. But sometimes we'll bring it out if we feel like we need to bring it down and let it just kind of simmer and not actually be like a progression or anything, and then bring it back in later on if we feel we need to go back and build into something.
Thanks.
That's good. Before the next question, go
One
for
of the computers is just for sports. We just watch.
Just streaming NFL every Sunday. Before we go to your question, we're all human. We've all made mistakes. How do you guys not get too down on yourself when you do make a mistake in a set? And then also, if you want, you could tell us your worst mistakes.
I mean, I can always talk. I have tons of mistakes. Well, I can't say it now.
Short term.
Maybe I'll use a different word now. Short-term memory. I used to, if I messed up, I would always get really down on myself, and it would actually make me mess up a bunch more. So I just realized that, oh gosh, I need to force myself to have confidence in my playing, even if I really bomb something. And so I think it's just having that short-term memory of just like, oh God, I just flubbed up. You know, it's like, oh well, and then keep going, and then don't ever revisit it, because if you revisit it, you just go down this trail like, man, I can't believe I messed up. And you're like, oh my God, where are we? Oh my God, why is people staring at me? Yeah. I'll tell you my biggest mess up was on a tour, and this was actually a really bad one. I have this drum pad, SPDSX drum pad, and I have all these like weird samples on it, and one of them was this, it's like a 1990s NBA theme song. It's like boom, it's like just a sample thing. Anyways, we're in the middle of like being thrown, and I'm going to like hit a tambourine or something, and it's like in the middle of the song I hit, it's like boom, and I'm like, what is happening? It's like, who turned on a radio? And I looked down, I was like, oh, and so I just hit the stop button. And then I was like, oh my God, I can't believe that happened.
Did you tell anybody that was you?
Oh no, I never told anyone. I front of house, Jonah was like, what happened? I was like, I don't know, man. I think it's some...
Dude, I think Joe made a mistake, bro. It's crazy.
Some weird frequency or something. I don't know. Anyways, it was really bad. And everyone was like just staring, like they went from this to like, what?
I mean, yeah, all of us have bombed multiple times. One of my favorites, I actually have it on my phone here. It was actually 2 years ago at WorshipU. It was in between week 1 and week 2. Sunday night, Hunter was leading, and was like, I was joking around, like, hey, I'm leaving. So Sunday nights here we play offering. And it's usually like Bill wants something like upbeat and something fun, whatever. So we were all talking, and I was like, Hans, I'm so tired, like, I'm leaving, I'm not going to play, as a joke.
First off, really fun, really nice,
joke, yeah.
Kind of him.
And so then I was like, obviously joking, okay, we picked a fast song to go out and play, and I go out, and yes.
All right.
And
this is your pit. Listen, this is your time to shine. Go for it.
And all of the drums are getting retuned. They're putting new heads on all the drums. So we all walk out, and I look at Hunter like, I literally can't play. And so like a dummy, I started packing up as he was playing a really slow...
So my only option was to do an acoustic offering song. So they're like, all right, guys, rush the buckets. And then it's like, I love you, Lord.
So anyway, as he's singing, I drop a cymbal on the kick drum. And I'm going to play it for you.
And I just turn around. I just straight on the stream, I just look at him. I'm like, unreal, bro. Unreal. Adam?
That's a really good one. Going back to like how to get out of your head when you make a mistake is one, just trying to take the stakes down. It all comes from that, and I used to do this like the worst, like feeling I hit a wrong note, my life is over, my career's done, I'll never be invited to play again. I should just throw my guitar away. And that's just not how it works. Like everyone that's a professional or playing on any level has all had, we've all had our flubs and all that stuff. So it's really helpful to you just have to force yourself. This is like what David was saying, just to pretend to be confident at least until you feel it again. And just it's really easy to go oh gosh, I made a mistake, I'm doing this. But if you can actually get outside of that and kind of look around and just see everyone and just be in the room again and get outside of that just the internal swirl, that'll help you kind of reset. And probably you're gonna look at people and they're gonna be laughing at you, but they're your friends, you know what I mean? So it's fine because they're gonna make a mistake and you get to kind of laugh at them later.
So I forgot about this until a couple months ago. Someone reminded me. It's the best. It was at Heaven Come last year, and it's Mando's doing pieces at the piano, and it's so beautiful and emotional and touching. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna we've been doing this thing where I come in with her, and it's awesome, and it builds up to the last chorus, and it's just super awesome. It went so good. It was the best. It was a highlight of the night for me to this point. And
until
Rise big chorus, we get the very end, very last chorus, and I'm still in with her. You don't give your 100, and the very last note, it's no click, and we're about to cymbal wash. You don't. I just have to tease the flat 7 instead of the 1, and I it was the whole room just was still.
Did you resolve it? Did you?
No, I didn't resolve it. I was so.
You just owned it?
I was so shocked that I don't know. I felt like I was outside of the moment, and I was just looking at what was happening. And
Also, Matt Ogden has made one mistake in probably his whole life, so you're fine.
Untrue. Well, okay, that's actually the best part, is because I had people that I would share that story with, and I'd have people legitimately be like, oh, you know what? I thought that you meant to do
exactly.
that.
If you're good enough, they think all your mistakes are on purpose.
I should have rolled with that. I was they thought that I did on purpose. So good.
Also, that you're so good that you shocked yourself that you made a mistake. Don't talk anymore. You're done.
I have mine queued up, ready to go. This is my first Sunday night at Bethel, so I was like, man.
Oh, this is solid gold.
This
guys.
is not.
I love
this is
this.
good. I think I was a little bit quiet. I'm not blaming monitors. I'm blaming myself. But I was playing harder than I probably should have been, and I was the only guitar player. And I ended up hitting the string off of the saddle, and so without realizing it, my string is tuned down maybe 3/4 of a step. And we're playing You Came with Amanda. And I also have way too much reverb and delay. And so here we go. We'll just let the video play. Loading. Bethel staff, Wi-Fi. Sorry, we'll have to wait a little bit. Chorus 2. Here we go. Sounds pretty good, right now? And I just remember it being the longest, 10 seconds. I was like, why is this lasting so long?
It's so eerie.
It's so eerie. And my roommate at the time was like, it sounded like you were about to rip into a Van Halen solo. And I was like, oh my. And I remember looking at front of house engineer Chris at the time, and I was just like, oh no, watching him. And he looks up and he just goes. But to salvage the story, I do want to say I was mortified. It was my first Sunday night. I walked back into the studio, and Matt and David were actually on that side with me. But I remember we were all joking about it, and Amanda came up to me first thing before she said anything, and she gave me a hug and she said, "Thanks for being human." And I remember that moment was pretty special for me. And I think when we asked that question of who's the worship leader in the room, most people are worship leaders. So I would just say. To empower you musicians to be human and not robots, to have feelings, and that the expectation is not perfection. The expectation is just to show up fully yourself. And so, not saying that mistakes are like me. Here we go. But you guys get it. Okay.
That's a good word, bro. Pastor Jay Lee over here. Go for it, my man.
Awesome. I'm a worship director at my church, and at my church, it's awesome. I have really good musicians, but they're all volunteers, so sometimes they just can't come, right, or something. They're actually really, really committed, but if they can't show up, I use multi-tracks and I'll put in a bass part or whatever. I'm kind of curious, what your process is in choosing. Maybe at what point you'd be like, okay, we're not using tracks because there's just not enough musicians here, or we're just going to use a pad. What is your process in kind of figuring that out? And do you have rules about that? Okay, we have to have, how many people would have to be in the band? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it'd be. I think just the obvious instruments. If you don't have a drummer, you put the drums in the track. I don't know. It'd be kind of funny to me. There's no set rule for us. We use tracks as just a buffer for us, so any little sparklies or percussion stuff. I think just use it wisely. If you don't have a drummer, Josh Baldwin just did a tour with tracks, and it was just him on acoustic, so we took out the live bass, and we took out a massive election. We just left in pads and sub bass and stuff like that to make it a little more natural and not just obvious you're using a backing track so I think just kind of the obvious things. If you can't see an acoustic player, but oh wow, this is only acoustic, and there's no stuff like that, just kind of fill in those gaps with something else.
Okay, that's cool. And is that chosen by your keyboardist, or is that chosen by the worship leader usually?
It's just kind of all of us together. Yeah. Maybe a group effort of being that's dumb, don't do that.
Can I? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
And sometimes we'll make it an intentional acoustic set if we don't have an electric player or something like that. And so we'll make the arrangements more stripped down and that sort of thing. So that can be another way to solve that problem. If there's one week where you don't have an electric player or a drummer, you can just kind of make it something else and make it cool that way.
Nice. Awesome. Can I ask one more question?
Is that go cool? For it, my man.
I'm just curious, the difference between paid musicians and volunteers and that dynamic of I'm curious okay, so you have, I don't know if you have an MD on stage telling people telling the band what section to go to. I've been using multi-tracks with the cue, the girl who's verse, and
we named her Tammy.
She's a good girl. I'm curious though, do you leave her voice in, or do you just no, we're just doing an MD?
If we're doing tracks, we'll leave it in. But then if we're doing a song that doesn't have tracks, usually we'll just have someone that has an empty mic do vocal cues and that sort of thing.
And we will also I'll double cue even if the lady's talking to. I'll just talk with her.
Lady.
Okay. Collectively, we talk with Tammy.
I'm gonna say that for the rest of my life. She a good girl, Tammy. She a good girl.
Great question, so thanks for asking.
All right, I got a question for you guys. So, a lot of you guys are also point people in our environment. What that means is they are in charge of connecting with all the other bass players. For instance, with Matt Ogden, he connects with all the other bass players in the environment and checks up on their abilities and how they're doing, and maybe reports back to us and sees to see who's the next rising up or anything like that. I'm interested in more particular what that looks like. What does it look like to be a pastor in this environment as well as a musician?
Ooh,
Pastor Matt.
I think
Pat.
Let's go. I think relationship, connecting, what's going on in your life, all the haps, whether new job, how the kid's doing, is it too busy for you, or are you burning out? Just all the practical relational stuff along with the heart stuff. That's a priority for me over how's your tone and how's, all of that stuff. So I think the environment in and of itself grows people when they're just naturally around our team and playing on Sundays and stuff. And so, but quite often than not, my meetings are more focused on relationship stuff, you know, because I want my guys to feel known and like they can talk to me about all the crazy stuff going on in their life. And if I can speak into it or just say like, dude, I'm so sorry, that's crazy and stuff. That's like priority for me.
Agreed. We have maybe 8 or 9 drummers here. 9 drummers here. And I think like Matt was saying, it's all about relationship. I mean, because we focus so much on tone and playing ability, but the relationship, if me reaching out to one of our young guys that had just came on the team, like that means the world to him, you know, and me really understanding what his goals and what his dreams are. And he's like, hey, I want to like travel and do all this stuff. I'm like, okay, if you really want this is what it's going to cost you. Like it's very costly. We'll go through and write down, you have to get better gear. You have to, and it's not something like you have to, it's like we're helping them, you know, it's not like you'll never get here because you don't have good gear, or you'll never get here because you can't play this part. Our job is to not only pastor them, but help them grow and get to where they want to be. And so we're always raising up and challenging our young musicians, as well as pastoring them, to be better people and to be better musicians. Kind of rambling. But a lot of practically, I meet with guys for coffee and just ask them, hey, what's up? What's going on in your life? And really get a feel of where they are. And then I'll ask them, hey, you got any pain points or frustrations with your worship leaders or any things like that? And I'll go and I'll connect with worship leaders and say, hey, like this is kind of a frustrating point for some of our guys. And what do you think about it? And so a lot of trust, a lot of relationship, and just checking in on guys. It goes a long ways. And they become better musicians, I think, through that. So.
Sorry, Jazz is giving me more information. Jazz also would like to know, is it the team's lead's job or responsibility to give them input, grow them, etc.? Is that their main role, or do they create growth plans for them? Do you guys create growth plans for them?
I think, not crazy detailed, but we definitely give them consistent feedback on where they need to grow, and make sure they're working on that. But I think we all have a common goal as far as guitar players, like what we're going after. So we all kind of have that in our headspace, but people are at different skill points and different points in their tone. So everyone kind of knows individually what they need to work on. Yeah.
Totally, that's great answers. Pastors, everybody, pastors and musicians. These guys, I know for a fact, don't just play worship music. They play all kinds of music, like David was talking about earlier. I'd like to know what kind of stuff you guys are doing outside of Bethel music, as far as music.
Kind of music outside of music?
Yo, dude, what kind of music outside of music?
Well, I am from Charlotte, North Carolina, and a buddy of mine was just on a tour for 3 months that I hopped on with him. The last 3 months, got home like right before WorshipU. And I also have been working for years on a project that we're starting to release singles of now. Yep. Called Carousel. Listen to Carousel on Instagram. There it is.
I literally don't do anything outside of Bethel. It's kind of my all right now.
Dude, you don't put on those headphones and just play some punk rock?
Yeah. I love playing the hip hop track, so I'll just put on some hippie to hop and just play.
David's a DJ. He DJ'd my wedding, and he's awesome. His name's DJ Hansel, and hire him.
What?
I DJ'd how many weddings? Your wedding, Joe's wedding, Pope's wedding, I basically like all of our band close friends. Yeah, a year of DJing, and I made this fake facade DJ guy, DJ Hansel, and he was like this Swedish DJ, and he had like this flower jacket, and I went to these weddings, and I had this little MIDI controller. I hooked it all up. Watched
That's definitely
YouTube
a German
video.
accent, man. That is not Swedish.
It's whatever. I apologize. But I used air horn and gunshots the whole, like, for my transitions in song. The song, it is like, brow, brow, brow. Next song.
There was a car crash one, too. It's like,
yeah. It's like, yeah. It's very silly.
Ooh, I just I'm doing my own project, guys. My own album, and yesterday we are done in mixing. So just got sent to masters yesterday. It's awesome. 9 tracks. Matt Ogden. That's the guy.
That's the guy.
So cool. I'm really happy.
I mean, I just do some freelance recording outside of Bethel, so with some friends I know, and a little bit of mixing on the side. Keeps it fun and keeps me busy. Sure.
Is this a time for everyone just to plug their own?
Plug their own.
I didn't mean for that to be that. I was like, yo, what kind of music do you guys like playing? That was essentially what I was asking, you know?
That wasn't the question.
They're ruthless. These guys are ruthless. Hey, wow. That's actually, I did this whole question just to plug my own stuff.
Yeah, what about you, Hunter? Your album.
Oh, man. Yeah, I did stuff one time. That was fun. Next question. We got a question about, they said that you guys seem that you're all in similar ages and life stages and seasons. How would you connect with a band maybe that are in different seasons and different ages? Coming from different backgrounds.
How do we connect with them? Like a...
Jaylee?
Yeah, I'm just like, stalling here.
I work with our first year school of ministry band guys, and it is crazy because I think around 45% of the school is international. And so you put together a band of someone who grew up in like deep Neckwoods, Georgia, with a keys player who only listens to German hardcore rap music. And this is it is real. And then you have a bass player who it just doesn't work. I won't say details, but it just like is crazy, and everyone's musical intuition is the polar opposites. And so I think the way to do that, and I kind of mentioned it earlier, is have a clear common goal of a sound, because I think the more clear of a sound it can give individual goals. So I know for us with guitars, there's a specific frequency range that works really well with what the keys player is doing, with what the bass player is doing. So it actually gives me a lot more direction of how to play.
What frequency is that?
Let's say like 400 to 2K. Pretty good?
It's pretty good.
Maybe 800.
It's a lot of numbers in between there, but...
We got 801, 802. I'm just kidding. So I think when it gets crazy, find a common goal, and it's not even that everyone would naturally do, but it is a common goal that everyone can strive, and you can work together as a band to get there. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to be perfect on day one. You just have a goal that you continually want to take steps as a band together. You want to do it as a group. You don't want to leave people behind. You don't want to do things that other people may not be good at. Does that make sense? So if you're playing like only shredder music and no one can shred, you're not really setting up your team well for success. So knowing your team, having common goals, and yeah.
Good, Jaylee.
Thanks.
All right, we got time for like one more question. How do you guys navigate prophetic moments with communication with each other? Like, is one person... I know we have an MD mic, but maybe talk about what it's like to have inner communication on stage.
We do have an MD mic, but we also super value everyone's individual intuition and like responsibility for a moment happening and really getting where it at least can go. So that's like we try to help those moments along as MD, while also giving people a lot of room and like a lot of room to just happen. You know, I'm not gonna like sit and tell Jonathan to play a melody. I'm gonna kind of, you know, just trust that he's gonna play the melody that needs to happen. And if he's, you know, totally zoned out, maybe like, hey Jonathan, let's come in here. But that doesn't really happen a lot because we all kind of, you know, like own those moments. And I think it's just a lot of eye contact. Like it's, you know, we have a lot of communication that's not really verbal. We try to like read lips, but we're all really bad at it. So only like one or maybe two band members is going to have a mic to be able to talk to everyone, but we all look at each other a lot in those moments and try to like, hey, are you going to come in right here? And I might even communicate things with like a Joe or David, that not into the mic, even though I have it, just for the sake of letting things kind of happen. But I'll just look over there, I'll look at Nick and kind of, a little nod, and Nick will nod at David over here, like, okay, let's go. Those kind of things like that are super helpful.
And then we all nod together. As a musician, I'll say something for like 1 minute. We want to pay attention to what our worship leader, they're actually doing, their body language, and what's happening in the room. Like, if everyone is like going crazy and clapping and you're just sitting back and watching, like, and you're not like actively pursuing this moment with them, it's kind of what doesn't need to happen. So also patience, like being patient, not over, exhorting your musical abilities, inserting your music. Like if there's a moment and there's space, and you're like, oh my God, there's space here. It's like, it's, you gotta be able to read the moment. So all these things are happening in our heads as these moments happen. Like when you guys are singing in the spirit, those times are really sweet because usually the band can get in the way of something that's happening in the room. So a lot of times not playing is just as important as playing. So there's a patience and a maturity that musicians need to have to steward these moments well. And it just comes with repetition and eye contact, communication, and be happy. Be happy, guys. That's it.
I'll just speak how important instinct is. And because a lot of it you can't spell out exactly, like, oh, Whitworth's on the ride and there's a pad and a bass, but how do the guitar players know to play something or not? Or a lot of the little small moments that are undefined, it's all instinct. And these guys have fantastic instincts, and that comes from just studying and understanding music on an internal, like unintellectual level. A lot of the stuff you can't break down, but it just comes from experience and just feel. And that's like the intangible thing. It's really hard to like put parameters to, but it's so important to develop and just study and listen and break down what's happening and all of that stuff.
Come on, bro.
Yeah, dude.
Well, guys, that just about does it for our time. I want you guys to go crazy for these beautiful band members.